Well, hello there, you magical, mystical friend. How are you? Happy week. If you're someone who has been struggling with consistency, commitment, confidence, and basically getting your ideas in motion and making things happen, and you're looking for, and you're also multi-passionate. You want to do a lot of things. And you're looking for perhaps a new perspective to reach your goals this year, then definitely stick around and watch because this video is for you. Hello, my name is Maria Alejandra. You can call me MA. And in this space, we are basically looking to connect the dots between our humanity and our divinity, between this world that we know and want to create things in and the beautiful realms beyond the world we create things in, from which we source all of the incredible ideas and inspiration and imagination to make things happen. And one thing I've noticed is that, and I worked in corporate space for about 16 years. I worked in a television network, from all the way from coordinator to senior marketing and branding director. So I went all up the ladder. I did the boardroom, I did the corporate thing, left and right. I'm really good at strategy and focus and decision making. And I also always had a very spiritual, magical, creative streak about me. 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I guess, my life shifted. I want to say it was 2018. So yeah, it'll be going into 6 years. My life shifted. I was laid off of that job, and I really saw it as an opportunity to just transcend into something else. And I took that leap at that time. Since then, I've had the great privilege and opportunity of coaching a whole bunch of incredible people, primarily women who have big visions, deep visions, very purposeful hearts and souls to make things happen, to bring their dreams into fruition and to recalibrate their inner landscape, basically. One of my clients called me her spiritual chiropractor. I love you, by the way. And that's kind of, I guess, part of what I get to do. It's part strategy, and it's also part just really channeling and sourcing and allowing that connection that I have, which I continue to polish and work on even more and more, allowing that connection to also infuse the coaching that I do. And as I sit with it, it's like we want this spiritual juice to become foundational, to become the core of what we do. Now, what I've also noticed, and what really has to change, and this is what's at the crux of this perspective shift, is that while we have been on this quest and this really beautiful, getting closer and closer to the divine feminine, to being receptive, to, not doing, but being, right? We gotta just, to using our intuition, to basically becoming more detached from the highly patriarchal structures that we've been living in up until now, which give us a certain parameters and a certain barometer of success and worth and all of that. Many of us have had that, like we were in that. And then we went like, no, there's so much more. So we looked in a whole other direction. And as I love to tell my clients, and I see in my own experience, we moved, it's like a pendulum that swings from one side where we were like kind of clenched in the doing model. And then we went all the way, we flipped that friggin' pendulum all the way to the other side where we wanted to explore the realm of the being model, of the let's just float and kind of like create. And that is incredible. But we cannot stay there. So what I've noticed is a trend, and I want to say we're coming into a moment in time where we get to say, you know what, we've had some practice in that realm. And if this feels resonant for you, you will know. You'll feel it. You've become practiced a little bit more in the realm of the more of the being model. And perhaps you're still like not quite there yet, and that's okay. I get tripped on it all the time. But finding the balance between the two and the rhythm between the two. Rhythm is a key word for this year. The rhythm between the two, between the divination and the action and the creation, between the inspiration and the perspiration, that's where we are finding ourselves. And it's no longer about the talk. We got to walk the walk. We really have to show ourselves. That's what's going to build trust. In what? In creating the things that we are projecting in our minds. Because when we stay in the floaty world of those kinds of conversations, then we are going to miss out. Plain and simple. We're going to miss out because we're not in the spirit of actually making things happen. And this year we get to change that. And I have a really powerful suggestion for you to do that. I also have some really cool goodies. By the way, I'm coming at you fresh faced today. I had a facial earlier. It was delicious. I have a few goodies that I want to share before we begin because I am today just in time for this. We have the first new moon of the year this week. Just in time, I am unveiling my Moon Magic calendar for 2024. And this is my gift to you. All you need to do is go to my website and sign up for the newsletter to get this beautiful download. I not only have a full page of the new moons and full moons with the date, the sign, I also included a page of some ritual ideas and journal prompts, plus an oracle or tarot card spread, all meant to be very simple and easeful so that you can just weave it into your day and not have to, create something extravagant unless you want to create something a little more juicy, but you have sort of a template to follow because, again, rhythm is key. I included a couple of my favorite poems about the moon written by yours truly. And then I even, as a bonus for you, because I love you, and also because I wanted this for myself, I created a version for your journal. So you can cut this out. So you can print you'll get the whole thing. You print this full page, but you can also print these half pages to put in your journal. I have a A5 size. This is my tried and true. Also, sneak peek of another goodie that I have for you, another freebie. So I created them this size because I can just put them here. Or you can put them in a calendar, just easier access. Speaking of these, I am in the midst of, I'm going to create a page for some new moon, Capricorn new moon magic here. And I found the goodies as part of my January Magical Moods page. This is something that I've been creating for my Patreon. This is a free, and Patreon you can access for free, or you can join the Moon Weavers, the Cosmic Creatrixes, and then I have another called Stardust Seekers, which gives you access to working with me every month. I only have 2 spots left for that one, and it is at a very, very deep, juicy discount. And just ask the people that work with me month to month. Their minds are a little blown, and it's part of the beautiful process of trusting and getting support. But if you just want to try out and scope out the Patreon or just get this every month, you can print this page out, you can cut it up, you can use it to make stickers. That's what I do. I bought this sticker paper, printer paper, and I print out my own stickers, and it just makes me. So look, these are all stickers I printed out. Look at this. Little ASMR sticker action. You want to say something, Skylar? He's here taking advantage of the magical office. Wait, we can't see your thumbs up. Move it. There it is. I love you so much. Also, if you do join Patreon, and this is the last thing that I will share about this, because the other goodie is also a freebie. When you join Patreon as a Cosmic Creatrix or above, which you get access to new moons, and then I do other things in there. Also an oracle card that I'm doing, some new benefit for 2024, an oracle card reading just for you. You'll send me a question, and then I'll pull a card for you. That started this month. And then this month, yesterday actually, I created the very first spell. I share pretty much every week a ritual or a spell idea. This one is called the Road Opener spell, which you might have heard of before. So I basically do some channeling. I bring in some correspondences. I write some cool things. I write some journal prompts and guidance on how to do it. And this one, I'm really, really proud of. I'm going to do this myself this week, and I'm excited. So just to give you a taste of the first thing I wrote here. A new path emerges, a new journey begins. The roads are now open. Onward, brave soul. Let's go. Let's begin. I love it. I love it. This is why you walk in magic. You get the tools, you walk in magic. I'm feeling hot. Okay, I'm probably going to sweat through this video, but that's okay. The other goodie I have for you, which I don't even know where I put right now. And we're back. I found what I was looking for. And I also went to find a ponytail holder because Mama's getting a little hot. So yes, okay. Now let's dive right into this tool, this way of, it's kind of a practice / methodology / symbolic tool, which actually has very practical applications. I call it the carousel. So welcome to the conversation around the carousel. And I've brought this up. I've hinted at it in a couple of videos. I talked about it during a podcast episode I was recently a guest on. And today I'm just going to flesh it out a little bit. And I also have another gift for you, which is this printout. I basically sat down and I asked myself, if I were to embark in this project of the carousel, and again, it's not a project, it's a way of approaching your project. What questions would I want to set down as to get really clear, focused, and the parameters around it? Because the why is so critical, and the methodology and basically like the strategy, like the tactics behind how to continue and stay committed to this carousel, which is in itself meant to help us with our commitment, but we have to commit to the carousel itself. So, it's part of flexing the muscles around taking our ideas. I always call it bringing your light into form, taking your ideas and giving them form. There are some very precise and really beautiful astrological energies that are also really aligning with this year in particular. Saturn is, shining through and through in Pisces. And there's a really big opportunity there because Saturn in Pisces wants to help us bring our dreams into form. Saturn is container, boundaries, Lord of time. I've in the same podcast I was mentioning, which I'll leave the link below so you can listen to it. We were talking about it, and we were talking about how we go out for our dreams, and we have, or a project, let's say, that you're excited about, and you just go gung-ho and you start, and Jupiter is there, which Jupiter also is playing a big role this year, and at this point in the year especially. So Jupiter is there like, yes, let's do it. You believe in yourself. I believe in you. I'm going to help you amplify things. Like, let's go. And Saturn is there in the corner, arms crossed, going, okay, sure. We'll see. We'll see. Does that voice sound familiar? That inner voice that says, we'll see. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, great. And he'll wait long enough for us to basically go through the motions of, I'm so excited about a project. You start, and you, my goodness, there's so many times that I've started a project without having this moment of discernment around, why am I really undertaking this? That then it's like, it just fizzles. Now, there's also a key component here because everything is nuanced. Everything is in layers. Nothing is black or white. The nuance here is that it is really, I think, so vital for us to try different things. Experimentation is the name of the game. I call it the laboratory of life. I literally have a program called the Creatrix Laboratory. And the whole idea is for us to see the world and see our projects as laboratory experiments. And the whole philosophy behind it is that we can't just have like, oh, all of my ingredients here, all of my, things that I'm eventually going to mix into my beakers and test things out with, and it's all there. And then I don't do anything with it. I just look at it. And this is where we can fall into the trap of just relying on things like manifestation. Manifestation is essentially shifting your mindset to open up to the belief that you can have and you can create the things that you desire. It's a powerful tool when we look at it through that lens. But a big part of the actual manifestation of goals and dreams and projects in your life is the action that brings them into fruition. We want that action to be aligned with why, our why. And what we what we can feel into in terms of our threads of purpose in the world. What is my purpose? What is my gift? And that requires a lot of experimentation, because we're also sold this model wherein, 4 weeks you can have, whatever it is that you want, or give me 10 days and I'll give you, $10,000. All of those, I want to say, old school models and frameworks around the coaching world are beginning to get really like in the cringy territory of they're kind of going to gasp for air, because they're not sustainable, because they don't really address the root core of your inner landscape. And even if you push yourself to the brink of doing the thing that you want to do, if your inner landscape is either really clenched up because it's so tense and tight, or it's just completely like devoid of substance, you're basically frosting a cardboard cake. Okay, so looks beautiful, maybe serves its purpose for a moment in time, but you can't really eat it. That you can't. It's just kind of like empty inside. So the carousel, and I'll read exactly what I wrote at the top of this download that you can get access to. The carousel is a symbolic concept brought to life from a deeply intuitive place. It will help you develop consistency and commitment, plus strengthen your follow-through energy and potential. Our ultimate goals are tangible growth in a specific area, personal expansion, and a whole recalibration of the inner systems that help you get things done. Sounds like lofty goals. It takes a little more than this, because this is why we bring in more tools. It absolutely. I'm not going to overpromise something, because it sounds like wow, but I really believe that on our quest, as we're walking around this beautiful journey called life, this beautiful, bumpy, tumultuous journey called life, we have all these moments that are like before and after moments, where a switch just like flips. And perhaps you've already been working up to that point of getting yourself ready just enough for that turn of the key. And that's where the power of sitting with a tool like this, or getting some really good, incredible coaching, or being in the company of others that can see and can also do. We have to be able to see, right? To see, to feel, to intuit, to work on those beautiful divine muscles. And we also have to be willing to to take the risk to do. And that risk comes with the potential for failure and the potential for shifting and all that good stuff. But we have to work both realms at the same time. I call that union creatrix consciousness, the union of the basically, to put it in a bucket, the feminine principles with the masculine principles. It's the sun and the moon working in conjunction to basically create that like rhythm, that pulse of I know, I go. I know, I go. The I know is that receptive quality. If we just stay in the I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, we're just going to stay there. And on the flip side, if we're just in the I go, you can even feel it in my you can see it, you can hear it in my voice, you can feel it. The I know, and the I go. It's the balance. So this is a tool to support us in the I know, I go. Why the carousel? Let's bring it back. I want to take you into a place called the amusement park of your creative mind. And I want you to feel into the energy of getting on a carousel. The lights, the horses, it's beautiful. Wow. You get on it. Maybe you stand in line, right? You get on, you're like, wow, this is incredible. This is amazing. I love this ride. This is so beautiful. You get on, the music starts, right? That like very iconic carousel accordion music, and you're looking around and your eyes are just like, wow, the lights and the images and this horse I'm on, and look at all the other people on here. And then, you look around and you're going round and round, right? 4 rotations later, you're like, okay, all right, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I want to get off. Not only do I want to get off, I want to go to a whole other ride, or maybe I'll even create a new ride. Like, wow, does this remind you of anything? Does this remind you of how we can take an initial idea of a project and maybe it's something, and I bet you, and I will encourage you to pick something when you move it through this methodology, to pick something that you've been wanting to do for a while that still feels like true. Okay? More to come on that. But doesn't this remind you of how we start off and then we can either get bored or we've heard the music one too many times and we're like, okay, I'm kind of done. So we go on to the whole other next ride. Now, the power as we equate the carousel experience with our commitment to a certain aspect of your project, right? A certain aspect of something that you want to create consistency on, have it become habitual, become a system. Our growth in creating the things that we want is going to come less from goals and more from systems. The goals are the big idea. And it's so easy, especially at this time of year, to fill our vision boards, our journals, our visioning documents, our new planners. Like, this is the time of year when we go just ham with all the things we want to do. And then what happens? We don't drill it into the systems that then can bring us into a rhythm and a routine of actually making it happen. And this works across the board. This works for in your business life, in your personal life, whether you are looking to create more content. That's, for example, the carousel I'm choosing to get on myself, or you're looking to start a fitness routine. Anyone and anything in between, there is something about that goal that is requiring a system, requiring parameters of what does this look like? How are you going to achieve it? And what's the timing of it? Now, you might say, MA, great. This is what we hear in basically every other goal setting system. You pick a time, you do this, smart goals, this goals. YouTube is right now filled with those videos. I've watched a few because I love that kind of content as well. Here's where this is different, because I always want to rebel and buck against the system in some way. Now, those systems work. They work for a reason, and they're repetitive for a reason, because they work, because you do the work. It's the chop wood, carry water. That's how you make things happen. But those of us who are multi-passionate, mystical, creative, magical human beings who just see the world through a different lens, we need to find new ways to basically get that same idea like aligned and embodied within us, right? The embodiment of what the consistency does for you is the bridge. And what I was missing, and I think many of us are missing, is that all of that planning, most of those planning systems sit in the realm of I go, where it's like, you have your metrics and you do this and you do that, and maybe you're following it for the first couple of weeks or month, and then it's like you let it go and you're like, oh. Or maybe some of you are really good at that, but you're finding it kind of hollow and empty. Maybe you're just going through the motions of doing things that you think you're supposed to do. That's a whole other topic, also very relevant for this year with Aries and Libra conversation. But for those of us that can have the tendency to start new things, and it's harder for us to keep the momentum and the follow through. And I know this because I've talked to enough incredible people out there who are in this, from like beginner entrepreneurs to peers to entrepreneurs that have been doing this for a lot longer, to just people in their daily lives. And the interesting thing is, because I also worked in the corporate space for 16 years of my life, I know what it's like to work for someone else, right? So you work for someone else and there's someone else's goals. You're committed to them. You come in, you clock out, some variation of that, and you get your job done. Now, when it comes to things that are born from you, meaning your ideas, your entrepreneurial aspirations, your artwork, your book, your videos, your Instagram posts, they come from a place where it is so much more raw by definition, because it comes from you. Somebody is not telling you, hey, do this. And then you're like, okay, because my job depends on it. When we shift into doing things, whether you're an entrepreneur basically full-time, or you part-time have something that you want to create for yourself and you still have a full-time traditional job, either one applies. You will find more resistance to staying committed and in follow through to the specific systems that will get you in motion and momentum and actually produce results. And when I've done this in my life, and it happens when I have a clear why, I have a clear motivation, I have a clear understanding of it, I feel inspired by the product at the end, and I can see somewhat what it's going to look like. I can feel into it, and I'm also open to having it become something, to having it morph as it might, because we adapt and change, but not shifting the sort of foundational undercurrent of why am I doing this? I've seen that time and time again and how the results happen. And I've also seen what I haven't said this phrase in a long time, but it's like I had what would I call it? A cemetery of old ideas, like literally a bunch of little like tombstones with all of these ideas that I had that just like, they just died off, like tombstone after tombstone of here lies this great idea that MA had back in, 2006. And here lies this other. And there's a certain point where we feel like we're just, here's what it feels like. We're spinning our wheels. We're doing things and we're not getting results. We get frustrated. We get angry. We have such high expectations, which are also have been drilled into us that for like the process of doing something is not as sexy as starting something and then completing it. We get to fall in love with the process again. And I know I'm not the first one to say this, but this is key. The rhythm of the process, the literal drumbeat of how we do what we do. We can't pick all the things at the same time. We have to be understanding of why something matters and the time allotted that we have to bring that to fruition. And we also have to work on our mindset to actually believe that we have the capacity and the capability to do it. Because yes, you do. And do you have a purpose, by the way? Absolutely, you do. You do. A purpose is not this sort of big, heavy thing to carry. A purpose is like threads of energy that you're following. What lights you up and what makes you feel like you are in contribution to a greater version of yourself and a greater version of humanity is a purpose. What lights you up and brings you joy is part of your purpose. Finding it and distilling and like picking those threads is part of why we explore and try different things out. So, the carousel. So why are we doing it? We're doing it so that in that moment when we've gone around a few rotations and we're hitting the point of exhaustion, boredom, or maybe like, I don't know how much more I can do, or, there's so many things that can block us. Everything from I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid this is going to get too repetitive and boring. I'm afraid people won't understand me. I'm afraid of success and how things will change if I am successful in this endeavor. Maybe I don't understand exactly my own parameters and metrics for my inner success, and I'm doing it for somebody else. And that will just kind of cut off the energy every time because you can only sustain that for a certain amount of time. And then it's not really yours. You got to channel something that's yours. So we stay in the carousel, and after that fourth rotation where we're like, all right, this is where the magic happens, and this is where the discomfort can come in as well. With this methodology, we're going to stay. We're going to stay. And people might get off and people might come on, but we're going to stay on the carousel. And yes, you are sitting on the same horse, bouncing up and down, going round and round in the same place. The carousel becomes your symbolic representation of both the system that you're doing, what the goal, right? And also the mechanism to move through. It's like a membrane of discomfort around follow through. So I want you to, and this can be a very sort of, again, because it's in the world of symbols, can be a very visceral. Ultimately, we want this to become an embodied thing. You are testing the boundary of where you tend to recoil and go back. So we stay. we stay. We come up with a why and we come up with parameters so that in that moment, we don't jump off. We remind ourselves why we are staying, why this matters, because maybe we don't have the same effervescent, like, oh my God, this is so exciting that we had at the beginning. Because now we've been on here and we see the reality of it. Oh, okay. I got to go round and round. And this is, we see the reality. Let's say, and this is, asking for a friend, it's my experience. So my carousel involves content creation for my podcast and my YouTube. So thanks for being on my carousel. Well, you're not on my carousel. You got to be on your own carousel, but you know what I mean. Thank you for witnessing me as I move through the discomfort of breaking through the thing that would stop me from creating consistent YouTube videos. I've done it before and it's always been in spurts. Well, I'll get like really inspired or things kind of align. Mind you, my personal life has a lot of nuance and a lot of tricky things that I have to move through. But I know that this is not only a deep joy for me, but I know how beneficial it can be in the long run. Establishing a rhythm of creating this kind of content. It delights me to no end to sit here and do this. I know based on the feedback I've gotten that it is something that helps and is supportive for others. And I know that this is a wonderful way for people to get to know me, to get to know how I see the world, and perhaps then want to get a little closer into my orbit to work with me, which is then where the funds and the resources for my magical business, that is a business where I use my gifts to bring deep transformation for other people, actually has resources and is funded. And it's not just in the, oh, I know I can do this. Wouldn't it be nice? It takes this. And I chose podcast and YouTube, the content creation piece, because again, it's something I've done in spurts before, and I can see how I've gotten off. What are the reasons I've gotten off? One of them is I have way too many ideas and I can't keep up with them in my head. And I've tried systems before so that's something I'm working through. Because when I'm committed to doing a video per week, an idea must come through. And I have so many others. So that's been something that stopped me before. How curious. And I know I'm not the only one. And if that's the case with you, let me know in the comments, because I know I'm not the only one that stops herself dead in her tracks because I have too many ideas. And then I'm not quite sure which one to go with. So then I just okay, nothing. Another reason why I've stopped is maybe the views, the metrics behind the videos, and what I felt was like me putting in that effort was not commensurate, was not in alignment. I'm trying to use big words here. Was not in alignment with the effort I felt like I was putting into it. So then I was like, yeah, there you go. It's not going to work out. Things like this work out when you put the work in over time. It's the same with your fitness goals. It's the same with, you name it. It's there. It's something that you have to be willing to pulse and move with and do and go with. Maybe you want to start sending a consistent newsletter to your email list. Maybe you want to start posting consistently. Maybe you want to have a consistent spiritual practice. Bottom line, there's something that will bring you not only great joy in the moment, but also will bring you, or maybe not in the moment, maybe the joy comes later in more of the results. And that's really good to understand as well. Because if we're just looking for the hits of inspiration and we're not sitting in and getting the work done on the freaking carousel and staying on it, then we're just not going to bring it to form. It's not going to happen. We'll leave it up to a whim. And maybe we've had experiences where things have happened that we're like, oh, wow. And let's leave room for all of that as well. Again, this is not a model for, okay, now you got to work your butt off to make things happen. We are bridging the world of the I know, that delicious, feminine, just expansive nature that we innately have, with the I go. I do the action. I take the step. And I stay the course. I stay the course. I don't come back. I don't just hop off. I stay the course. Once we stay the course, what will happen? First of all, we move through that initial or that like that moment, that membrane where you are like, I'm about to get off this thing. And then you're like, okay, remind yourself why. What's the bigger picture? And what commitment did I make to the parameters around this? Okay. You breathe and you stay and you keep doing the thing and you hold yourself there. We hold. What happens after that is a few things. We realize, oh, okay, I can keep doing this thing. Why? Well, it matters. Also, it can get easier over time. It probably will. Everything that we start off doing at first is going to be more challenging. Once we get the momentum going, like moving a big wheel initially takes time, but then it just picks up its own sort of like movement. So while we're sitting there, and we will also discover it gets easier. Okay, I can totally do this. And what we thought was a boring landscape around us because we got bored of looking at the same thing over and over again or riding the same horse, I venture to say that we will develop a deeper appreciation for where we are, for where we're sitting, for what we're creating, how the perspective shifts when we are willing to stay. I hope that not only makes sense, but it invites some curiosity in you to try this out along with me. So now for the questions you're going to get, there's like 15 questions here. How does this carousel conversation intrigue me? It's like, how are you drawn into it? What is the potential I see for my own life, business, journey? Everything to, what frightens me about staying on the carousel? What support systems will I set in place to keep me on the carousel, etc.? And then the second sheet, first you go through the questions, which you can write down in your journal or just talking through out loud. Writing down in your journal or sitting on the computer is always powerful. So you can release some of the tension that you might have around it and then explore, what are the sort of like it takes on a life of its own because then your subconscious can give you a little more information than your just conscious cognitive mind. And then in the second sheet, which this is the one that I think we should all print out, fill out, and put it somewhere we can see it every day. You will basically like commit to, what is my carousel? When will I begin? A specific date. When will I end? My recommendation is at least 12 weeks, 3 months. You don't have to do it within any specific time frame, except I'll give you some pointers from my own magical planning systems. I'd recommend you begin on a new moon because it has that energy of new beginnings. And I also recommend that even though 12 weeks would have you ending in a new moon, perhaps consider ending in a full moon so that or you're ending in a new moon because you're starting up a new carousel with a new sort of aspect of the project. Either that or you want to be in the completion energy of a full moon. But working with the moons is fabulous. So definitely get that calendar and then you can have that on top of mind and plan with it. What are my specific parameters? Your parameters are, for me, for example, I'm going to create one weekly YouTube video and a weekly podcast. And sometimes the podcast ends up being the audio of the video, but that's not always going to be the case. For the most part, I want it to be an original podcast episode. But I also allow myself the flexibility because life is lifing all the way. And so I'm not going to also constrict myself. It's a parameter that has to have substance, and it also has to have a degree of flexibility that you see with integrity. We don't want to let ourselves off the hook so easy because then that's where we just kind of, like, first we get our foot off the carousel, then it kind of drags for a little bit, and then we're like, oh no, I fell out, and it's not my fault. It's just life is life. And that's not what we're going for, because if we're going to recalibrate our inner landscape, we have to be able to see ourselves through those really those spots of resistance, because then that's where the freedom of pushing past it, of moving past it, is on the other side. It's kind of like birth canals, like tight, but then, there's something on the other side. It's just part of the cycle growing and creating things. And then a couple more questions to basically help you ground into, your why and your vision, to help you remember why you're staying on. So in my case, I will fill this out, and then when and if I have a week that I'm like, I don't have to, or I look at this and I go, no. Because guess what? Committing to what I decide, a video per week can look like lots of different things. Some videos are longer, some videos can be shorter. It can look like something different. Am I willing to see other possibilities? We can have flexibility within that. It's a combination, again, of focus and flexibility. And again, that's a very masculine and feminine balance point where we get to find that sweet spot. But being in integrity with yourself and the parameters you've set for yourself, because nobody will keep you on track like you. We can absolutely work with people that can support us. And this is my intention, to support you and motivating you to believe that, yes, this is not only can work, but can transform the way you see consistency and commitment to aspects of your projects. And if you're willing to work deeper with me, then I'm here. Ultimately, you are the one that you are at the epicenter of your world. So you're the one that has to get yourself into that rhythm. I will also insert here that life can get really, really challenging. So find something to get on the carousel that really feels motivating. It may not be easy on the sort of week by week or day to day to stay committed to it, because forming habits is difficult. We're basically we're shifting from a certain way of seeing things that feels safe to a whole new way of bringing something into our world. The beautiful thing about creating habits in a sustainable way that's aligned with your deeper self is those habits, and ritual also has the ability to actually transform your brain to really, really create some of the changes that will then follow you and support you for years and years and years to come. So while it feels like a push, it is where we are in the recalibration stage. Get support. You're not doing it alone. Get excited about it, and get excited about the possibility of seeing the creation and the execution of your goals and your ideas in a different way. And may this be a tool that supports you in doing just that. Any questions that you might have about this method and this idea, put them in the comments. Also, how it sparked or inspired you. If you have anything that I could offer additional sort of inspiration or shed some light on, I'm more than happy to dive into the comments and provide some more, so that you can really, how incredible to live in a world where the ideas that we have that come from such an inspired place are brought to fruition. This is how we change the fabric of life. This is how we get out of our way in terms of all the excuses we might be creating and actually make things happen. And we are at a turning point of, we've learned a good chunk of, okay, the divine feminine is here. There's still a lot of integration to happen, for sure. But there are enough of us that are already pulsing with this energy. We're right there. And I really want us to see changing the world and changing the game in tangible ways that we can actually make a difference. We got to move the needle somehow, and we got to take it upon ourselves to shift the fabric. And we do that by actually putting things in motion. There's that's what many of us are called to do. And if you have that calling, then make it happen. Let's make it happen together. Don't forget that momentum is magic and focus is freeing. I'm going to put all the links below to all the stuff I talked about and the way to get these goodies and downloadable things. Thank you so much for being here and for walking in magic with me. Thanks for your comments and your questions. Thank you for your likes and your subscribes as we keep growing. And I will definitely see you next week. Have a luminous, incredible new moon if you're watching this before the new moon in Capricorn. If you join me on Patreon, you can both come to a new moon ceremony, and also on this week, I'm hosting a light print planning session, which is 90 minutes of basically holding space to plan and to create. And so if you're intrigued about that, you can always try out Patreon for a month and see if it fits your vibe and what you're looking for in terms of support for this year. I would love to be one of your guides and one of your co-creatrixes on the journey. Having said all of that, I wish you love and stardust always, and may you be wise, may you be free, and may you always speak your truth. Onward, my friends. I will see you next time. Adios. I'm gonna go back into video mode. You can tell me the surprise later.